Hey guys, welcome to the Luis Delgado show. Today we have Brian Lackey back on the show. We have him back on the show. He was on the show back in March, but we have him back today because in the past 3 to 4 months he's built an ad agency and is making more money now than was at his previous role. So take us back to Brazil when you contract the coronavirus. Talk a little bit about that, what happened, and then what you did after that.
Yeah, so I'll just hit it from the top. So I was working remotely in Brazil with my previous company. I ended up contracting COVID and I had it pretty bad. So I ended up having to go to the hospital when I couldn't breathe and I was really sick for like a week. I had a really hard time like doing anything. My whole body hurt. I could like barely get out of bed. And so I spent 2 to 3 weeks in isolation, quarantining and recovering. When that was done, I got on a plane back to the US and I went back to my parents' house in Alabama, and I kept working remotely from there, but I ended up leaving my role at my last job. And upon leaving, I was applying to jobs, and I was finding it more difficult to get work than I was expecting. So I started freelancing to beef up my portfolio, and in terms of the work that I've done and the experience that I have. And I just ended up like loving the experience, and it ended up being very lucrative over time because I was able to expand my skill set and start really like adding value to myself, which allowed me to add value to companies, and that's really what it's all about. So since then, I've been freelancing with a lot of different clients and a lot of different verticals, Facebook ads, Google ads. I'm starting to do TikTok ads. And so I was living at my parents' house doing that for a while. And then I ended up moving out here to Puerto Escondido like a month and a half ago. And that's kind of where I'm at.
So basically, you just went straight into freelancing and building this business. How come you didn't at what point did you decide, I'm not going to go for the job. I'm just going to continue doing this. And can you talk a little bit more about like specific ads and how, like, where do you find work? People that are listening here, like, wondering, like, hey, how can I do the same, make some money during this time when there's a lot of people that, become unemployed or having trouble finding work? How have you managed to find a lot of work and continuing to find work just through freelancing?
Yeah, so initially there were some really good job offers when I was looking at jobs, and I got pretty far along in the hiring process with a few jobs, and I didn't end up getting them, and I was just totally crushed. But I kept, freelancing on different projects, mostly on Upwork initially, and as time went on, the I was like initially I was like very excited about the jobs and like not getting very good jobs on Upwork. And as time went on, there was kind of like an inflection point where like I was applying to jobs, but I didn't really care because the projects I was getting on Upwork I was way more interested in. And like I mean, initially it was a lot of work. I was working like 12-hour days for like minimum wage, less than minimum wage. But as time goes on, you can start justifying, yeah, like the value you're putting out. Like once you learn enough to put out a lot of value, you start getting compensated accordingly. So that's kind of part of the grind, is that you have to start out doing that kind of thing. So I'm kind of rambling, and I don't know if I answered the question.
No, you answered the question. What I want to ask is, there's a lot of people that go onto Upwork and they just find it difficult to find work, or they say that it doesn't work. But it sounds to me that it's worked for you really well. And why do you think that is? Like, what's the difference between, I would say most people that, kind of like mediocre on Upwork, have trouble finding work, whereas you just kind of came in and just started crushing it, finding clients and just continuing to find more work.
Yeah, so I have a system that I use on Upwork, and I guess
Yeah, talk
I'll.
about the system, man. It's a crazy system.
I should be like selling this for like $20 like for every person that's watching this. But basically on Upwork, it shows your stats, and so it shows how often you were viewed, how often you were interviewed, and how often you were hired. So for my profile at this point, like how often I was viewed, I'm like exactly average, and then how long or how much I was interviewed versus other people who apply to jobs, I'm in like the top like 25%. And then for the amount of people who actually get hired, I'm in like the top like 5%, something like that. And it's because I put a lot of time and effort into having like a really good process and a really good client experience when I'm interviewing people, and I'm kind of like bringing them through the sales process. And I guess that it kind of goes into the onboarding process a little bit at that point. So I did some things like I have a list of questions that I just go through. It's like very thorough when I'm asking people about their business and their business objectives on the sales call, when we're getting to know each other. I also place a huge emphasis on transparency. I mean, I tell people, we get to the point where this is just simply, not a good not good for your business, then I'm just going to go ahead and fire myself, because if I'm not providing that value to you, and then we're having to like argue about like, why are you working on this? Like, I'm not seeing any results, whatever. I don't want to deal with that. I just want to like provide as much value as possible to people who, whose businesses can actually use it. Not every business can be run profitably on these platforms. So that's a good reinsurance that people have. And I have fired myself before, I'll be honest, when I took on a client where it just didn't make sense, but I took them on anyway. Initially, I was kind of more desperate, so I took on clients I shouldn't have. Now I'm a lot more picky. So that's part of it. Another part of it too is that I have very clean documents that I send people in terms of when we start talking. A lot of people on Upwork are like, okay, like hire me, like let's start working. And I take a lot slower. I'm like, I want to get view access on your accounts and see if I can actually help you before we get started. So people appreciate that too. And also when I send over those documents, they are, clean, branded. I also have like videos, like video tutorials that really show people, how to do things. It's a very clean, branded experience. It's very, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think it's a lot better than what people on a lot of freelancers on Upwork are putting out there.
So is it like basically why you're finding success because of the processes that you have in place? Where did you get that process? Where did you get that from? Like how did you come up with the process? Did you learn it at your previous company? Because there's a lot of, like, if you were starting out, like, what's like the practical advice? Like what would you tell people that are starting up on Upwork exactly? Like kind of like a hold their hand, like, A, B, C kind of situation plan. What does that look like?
So, I mean, in terms of the process, I learned a lot of that in my old company. I don't want to talk too much about my old company because I signed a fairly restrictive document on what I can and can't talk about upon leaving, but I will say that a very positive thing that I learned there was that there was a big emphasis on the client experience. And so that's something that I kind of take into what I do too, because I think a lot of people who do, paid advertising, it's all about the results, obviously, but a lot of people just completely neglect the client experience, and it's just horrible. It's shitty. They have like shitty documents. Everything's like disorganized. It's really bad. I've seen what other people do, and it's not good. So it's really easy to just spend some time, maybe even spend some money, as I have, to get nice assets. And it'll really, like, when you have a really nice client experience, and everyone in the industry, not everyone, but like a lot of people have shit client experiences, you really stand out because of that. So there's that. And in terms of people starting on Upwork, I would just say, make it all about the client as much as possible. Do the best job you possibly can, and initially take jobs that are very low deal amounts, bid less than even people are asking. If it's hourly, bid less than that, because you have to get some earnings on there before people are going to trust you with big projects. Honestly, like if you're brand new and someone hires you on a big project, that's kind of a red flag to me. I want to work with people who are like responsible and make good business decisions. So I would just say start low. Whatever they're bidding, whatever they're looking for, bid even lower. Just start at the very bottom, and then just kill yourself to make the experience as good as possible. Like my first few projects were like $20, $50, and I was just breaking my back to like give these people a good experience, to get good ratings, and then get references from them. And like some of them ended up ascending into like X amount, like $300-$500, whatever, monthly recurring deals from what was initially like a $20 like total job up front when I was starting.
What kind of opportunities are you talking about on Upwork then? Like for people that are starting out or trying to figure out what to do with, what they can do on the side, like you talk about marketing, but what kind of like marketing would you say to like go into, and what's the opportunity looking like right now among, even though like we're in the pandemic, have you been seeing more work, less work? Talk about that a little bit.
So there's definitely a lot more things going on that are digital now because of the pandemic. I mean, what I do is paid advertising. So, like Facebook, Google, mostly like e-com, like lead gen, like B2B SaaS stuff. Basically like that. But like, I don't like imposing like my way of doing things on other people and saying like, this is the way that you have to do it just because that's my experience. So there's a lot of viable things people can do to freelance on the internet, not just on Upwork or like Fiverr or like that cryptocurrency freelancing website that we were looking at. There's a lot of options. So like if you want to do like graphic design, if you want to do email marketing, if you want to like do web design, web development, or even like coding, whatever, now is the point in history where it has like never made more sense to freelance and get compensated pretty fast from freelancing. And there's so much free information on the internet. Literally anyone can learn whatever they find interesting on the internet and then end up getting compensated pretty quickly for that, all on the internet. You can do it all on the internet. Everything I learned, I don't want to say everything, but almost everything I learned that I'm doing now professionally, I did not learn in school. I studied geography. I don't do anything with geography right now. I learned it all online, and anyone else can too.
Right. I studied sociology. So nothing to do with private equity, podcasting, marketing, sales, etc. So yeah, there's definitely, like Brian said, it's like the perfect time to come in and start freelancing, start just doing all kind of things online. Where do you think this is headed, in the next, within like this like Christmas coming up, what do you think people are going to be not wanting to spend on, buying things online, or are they just going to be, what's the ad industry looking like? Do you think paid advertisement looking like?
I mean, it's hard because way more people are online now more than ever. And if you think about, like Black Friday, like stuff like that will like physically not be allowed to happen. So all of that demand is going to be online. And so it's going to be extremely competitive, but I mean, that's good because there's going to be a lot of business going on. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for work. But I mean, on the other side of the coin, it's hard to see it and like feel it, but there is, potentially like a very large like looming crisis with, so many people that are unemployed, who can't pay their rent. And so there's that factor as well. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty right now. I mean, in terms of like the economy, but at least in terms of like this Christmas season, if you're advertising, you're probably going to make a lot of money just because there's a lot of demand there.
Isn't it crazy how like it seems like when things are going like south, like there's still so much opportunity and money to be made. And even though it seems like, I mean, there are a lot of people losing their jobs, there are a lot of people in like really, really bad situations. But I think, if it's about like knowing what's out there, like listening to podcasts like this, like knowing about like, yeah, you can go Upwork and start, getting projects that are $20-$40 a piece, and then eventually start making $100, $200, $1,000 just through learning marketing and skill set like that, or website design.
I mean, like it all comes back to learning. Like it's all about learning every day, no matter what. I have like a list of things to do. I have a list of daily things to do. In that list, the most important one, no matter what my workload is, that's a lie. Sometimes when I work like 12 hours a day, I skip it, but like almost every day I have to learn for 30 minutes, something directly related to what I do. And when you do that, it accumulates a lot, like accumulates like way faster than you think. So like me now compared to 6 months ago is pretty much unrecognizable. I mean, even compared to 3 months ago, like the amount of things that I know from making an effort to just get out there and learn things. And by the way, that's in addition to just getting experience from doing things. I think that learning things is the best way to increase your value. And, a lot of people think about money. Money is just
Let's talk about money.
Money is just the exchange for value. That's all it is. So like the more value that you are able to add to yourself and to, put out there, by virtue of just like knowing things from learning and getting experience, you will get compensated for that. So if like people that are chasing money who are not trying to add as much value as possible, that's the wrong way of going about it. This is something that we talked about like a couple of days ago, where I gave this like analogy, which is it's like when like dudes start trying to like go for girls or whatever, like in high school, and when their sole objective is to get the girl, it's like the same thing as people who are just chasing money. So like you learn like little tricks and gimmicks, like you got to say this line and you have to wait like 2 minutes between like text messages. Yeah, like that's how you get the girl. But all that shit and like the same like gimmicks people try to do to like make money, that shit at the end of the day, like you probably won't get the girl, you probably won't get money. What you have to do is create value, and those things are attracted to value. So in the case of making money, like I said, learn a lot of things, get experience, put things out there. In terms of dating or like trying to go on dates with girls or whatever, if you add value to yourself, so if you learn things, if you work out, try to be attractive, interesting, pursue interesting hobbies, do shit that you like to do, then they will come. then they'll come, and you'll get all of that shit as well. So I think that a lot of things in the world work like that.
So, to a person that's like going through a difficult situation, would you just what would be like the first thing you suggest them do? Is it like a shift to shift their mindset, to just start like what is it like that you would tell them like this? Start creating, finding ways to create value.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard if someone's going through a difficult situation. It's hard, and it's hard to also like shift the way that you think about things in terms of it's kind of like a train, like if like objects or like Newton's, what is it, the second law? Like I'm probably wrong. Like objects at motion tend to stay in motion, objects at rest tend to stay at rest. So for someone who looks at someone who's like a bullet train because they're just like doing all this shit, nonstop, just like going crazy, it's kind of disheartening sometimes if you haven't really started yet. But so it's important to know that you have to start gradually and then you pick up speed, with time.
So, can you talk about why you decided to come to Puerto Escondido and work from here? You know, and just talk a little bit about that and what that's been like working as well, for freelancing, working online.
Yeah, so I mean, I came here because I want to wear like unbuttoned shirts and so people don't think it's weird. No, but like, sorry about that. So we're recording on my laptop, and apparently I was out of storage. Was very confused as to why, but I had like 100 gigabytes of games I've never even played. So we just deleted all those. So now I think we're good. I think we could probably record for like a year straight or something.
Yeah, so we were talking about why Puerto Escondido and why you decided to come here and work remotely from this city.
Yeah, so basically, I had been living just in my parents' house since since I left, my job, in my last company, and I was freelancing this whole time, and I was just, I mean, everyone feels like this. I was just losing like my sense of time, and it was just like, the days blend into weeks, blend into months, and it's just the same thing, and I feel like I'm just wasting away. I'm sure it's a very, I feel like a lot of people probably feel like that. And so, I looked at where's open, and I saw that Mexico was open, and so, obviously there will be people that say, why are you traveling? Even though I am low risk, even though I have already contracted the virus, and that's not 100% guarantee you won't get it again, but I'd say I'm in a very safe demographic of people to travel, and I know that a lot of people here are struggling because of the lack of tourism, so I made the decision to come here. So that was my decision. And so I've been here for about a month and a half. And honestly, it's been pretty good. I actually find it easier to socially distance here than where I was before because it's lower population. Anytime I go out, I'm pretty much just, going to the beach and surfing. And so it's been a pretty good trip so far. I'm really enjoying my time here.
Has it been better for working, freelancing, business, etc., than before when you were open in the parents' basement?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, where we are right now, we're in what's called the penthouse, and so I mean, it's just this apartment that I have here. I think that the prices are probably better because there's so few tourists here, and so the fact that like I have this whole place that's pretty nice and clean and easy to work in. Although the Wi-Fi goes down from time to time, I find it easier to focus. So I feel like that I'm getting more and higher quality work done here.
For sure, it definitely, and then also I just want to add on to that, being here, working here, like having someone, like Brian here, we worked, like side by side here, and we call it the hustle house. Definitely getting a lot more done. Feel more motivated. Every day, every now and then I'll try to surf. Not necessarily my sport, but I'm actually like watching the sunsets a lot more. It's actually a thing out here. So if you are working remotely and you aren't really feeling the place where you're at, this is a place I'd recommend to come out to socially distance and just like kind of like work on yourself. There's people that just meditate on the beach when sunset, comes along. I think it's a really good environment to be in. Just focus, and it can also save a lot of money as well in the process. So Brian, where's next? What's the next move after this? Are you thinking about staying here or going somewhere else? Or are you thinking about just like going somewhere else and just like focusing on just continuing to build the business? Do you feel like you just need to be secluded from everyone to make it grow, or what is that looking like?
So there's some big questions in terms of like where I'm going physically. My cousin's getting married in like 2 weeks, so I'm going back to my parents' house, spend a week, quarantining there, then take a test just to be sure that I'm all good before going to the wedding. And then after that, honestly, I'm not sure. I kind of want to go to Maryland, hang out with my grandma. I might go visit a friend in Colorado, go snowboarding. So for the end of the for the rest of the year, I'm really not sure where I'm gonna be like physically. You know, some people are talking about going to Medellin. Some people want to go to Puerto Rico. Like I have another friend who's going to Brazil. He really wants me to come. So I don't know. Physically, that one's up in the air. In terms of like what I'm planning on doing as far as like working in my company, so far it's just me doing everything. And so there are some different ways to go about things moving forward. As of right now, I'm starting to kind of like I wouldn't say like actively drop some of the smaller clients that I'm working with, but I'm starting to like kind of like phase out their campaigns, make sure they're like set up for success, without me, and I'm moving towards larger projects. I like larger projects a lot more. I mean, this is something else I was talking about today actually when we were eating lunch was that to take someone who has never run ads before and maybe they're doing like e-commerce for whatever, and they have a small budget, it takes more effort to like sell like 10 pairs of shoes in a month on Facebook than it does to make like a 5-6 figure impact for like a large company that's already running a lot of ads, and there's a lot more things that you can do. So I'm kind of gravitating towards that. I like to make a bigger impact on like larger projects, like more I like solving problems, some more complex problems. And so that's the direction that I'm moving in. As far as am I going to like build out a team and bring other people on? Maybe, but like the first step is doing larger projects, so it's like I mean it's all positives because it's a better learning experience, less stuff to keep track of, able to do a better job and focus in and make a bigger impact, on with the smaller amount of people. So that's the direction I'm moving in. I think that also, in terms of scalability, that is also where I have to go to be able to start scaling. So I mean that works as well too. But in terms of and this is something where like just stop me if I start rambling, but this is something that I feel that I am not trying to make as much money as humanly possible. If I was, I wouldn't be here. I would just stay in my parents' basement and just work 12 hours a day, and just be miserable. That's not a way to live. I think that like to me the two biggest mindset shifts that I had was one, going from what's called a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, which is where if you can't do something, a lot of people just assume like, oh, I can't do that, but the way to think about it is that I can do that, and I just need to learn how to do that. And anyone can basically do anything. That's the first one. Second one is the what's it called? The abundance mindset,
Right. Yeah.
which we were talking about, which is basically not working from a place of fear or like a feeling of lacking, which is what I used to do, where like I would work a lot, because what was motivating me was the fear that if I don't do this, then I won't have money, or maybe people won't think I'm doing shit, or I won't like what I'm doing, whatever. Now my motivation is just all positive. It's like I work because I like it, and I thoroughly enjoy all the work that I've been doing so far. Not 100%. I don't think that's possible, but like, but like almost all of it, like way more than anything I've done before. So it's all about being driven by positive forces, and also just not like scrounging for like every penny you can possibly get. It's not about that, So I'm just motivated by positive things. I'm working. Sometimes I work a lot. Sometimes I work too much. Sometimes I still do 10, 11-hour days from time to time. I mean, you've seen that.
Yeah.
But it's not all the time like it was before. And, I'm not at all motivated by like fear or like pressure or anything negative. It's all positive, and like I'm really enjoying everything.
When did you make that switch? Because I definitely do agree with the abundance mindset. When you start working from that point and like from that perspective, like you just start attracting more work, more quality people into your life. So when was it that you made this switch from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset? And I also think it's just like an essential thing to have right now, especially even though there's a lot of craziness going on in the world. If you can stay grounded and can have this abundance mindset that everything is going to be okay, that you have the skills or the knowledge or the ability to develop these skills or any skills that you need, you're going to be fine, no matter what happens. You may lose your job, you may not have a job, but you can obviously, like you've seen from Brian's story, he went from not having a job to now making, money online, freelancing, running an ad agency. So a lot can happen in 3-4 months if you're in a place, that's not where you want to be, where it's not ideal, where it's a bunch of struggle. So, what do people got to do to switch that mindset? How did you get to that point?
I mean, it's hard to change your mindset. I would say that I went from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. I feel like I'd always kind of thought like that, but then I definitely switched while I was working at my last job. There were some books that we all kind of read together, and there was one about that, and so that had an impact on me. And then in terms of shifting to an abundance mindset, that did not happen until this year, until you sent me that podcast by the guy that does capitalism.com and some lady.
Ryan Moran.
And then who is the woman on the podcast?
See, I'm not even sure. I forgot. But she's like a personal development coach.
We'll link it in the video. But
yeah.
But that's what made me start shifting towards an abundance mindset. And then also, I think meditating has really had a large positive impact on my life. I started doing that. This year. I think like in the summer. Mm-hmm. And so now that's like a pretty big part of what I do. And if I don't meditate, I try to meditate every day. If I don't, I can kind of feel it. And I think that's something that a lot of more people should be doing.
Yeah, and there's different kind of meditations. The ones that he's talking about is like where he just kind of like blanks out, tries not to think about anything. I can't really do those. I do this priming meditation, in particular one that Tony Robbins has, where it kind of guides you through like moments of feeling really grateful, like one where you feel really a proud moment that you have, or just two of the grateful moments, and then it puts you in a place and moves you forward to that to then think about like goals that you want to accomplish. I feel like that's like also key to not just self-motivating, but also like just self-motivating, getting yourself to believe that you can and will accomplish those things. So if you guys aren't feeling really, if you're not feeling good, I definitely think that meditating and being grateful is like key to moving forward, especially during this time, and building skills, and going back to what Brian was talking about, becoming valuable to the marketplace, becoming valuable to your friends, your family, is what I think is going to help us get through this pandemic, and putting yourself in places that make you feel good. For some people it's Puerto Escondido, for some people it may be I don't know, the U.S. somewhere in Denver in the mountains. So if you have the ability to do that, you should do it. Keep your sanity in place, feel good. And so Brian, where can people find you if they want to work with you, if they want to learn more about ads? We didn't really talk about much about I guess like the specifics about how to like look into an ad campaign or a business, and kind of like break it down and see like where it can improve. So maybe people may want to reach out to you for that, or maybe they have a business that it's all like a mess. Brian's definitely someone that can fix your business, go in it, audit it, and tell you what's wrong with it, and put systems in place, CRMs, help you build out SOPs, and just build it and actually make it an efficient machine. Whereas there's a lot of small companies do not have processes, and it is a nightmare trying to work with them or even working in that business because it's just really sloppy. People reach out to you, and also you can talk about a little bit like about specific things that you can help people with. You work with like what e-commerce, what kind of businesses that you work with, so that people that know if it makes sense to reach out to you.
Yeah, so as of today, October 13th, you can go to my website, but as of today, my website's still pretty shitty. I made it myself, and I have not spent any money upgrading it because it has not at all been a hindrance to my ability to find work. But you can contact me there. You can contact me through Upwork. I'm pretty easy to find on Upwork. And I mean, a lot of questions in terms of like specifics of going into like ad accounts and like going into businesses. There's just so much there that it's hard. It's hard to get like actionable things without actually getting an account. And it's a part of the reason why I like to get in accounts before I start, because people who this is like a whole tangent I'm not trying to go down, but like people on Upwork who like if I'm like if someone's trying to hire two people, me and some other guy, and then some guy like gives a list of things that the person should be doing before even seeing the account, I would be skeptical. You have to see what's going on to actually know what's going on. But I think a lot of people are like that. A lot of people put out things or like say things that they don't really know, but that's a whole nother tangent. But another tangent, just looping back real quick, just before I forget, and hopefully this isn't too off topic, but in terms of like meditating and like the kind of meditating that I like, in terms of, like just closing out like all sensory input, like as much as possible. I think that this is something really big, and I think that the reason why is because today we live in a society. We live in a society that is hyper stimulated all the time on like, with, like phones, videos, like TVs, laptops. I got my Xbox there. Like everything is just nonstop. Even this video that you're watching is just content. It's just content nonstop, and so it's hard to I think a lot of people's like stimulus baseline is like way too high, where if you're not being stimulated, it's almost like physically painful. For me, the moment that this is this going too far off topic?
No, you're good.
Okay, for me, the moment where like this really hit is when I was in the kitchen, and I was like I got something out the fridge, and then I was walking to the pantry, and like I pulled out my phone and tried to look up a video in the 2-second walk, and that's when I realized that like I was like too far gone.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of people are like that, and it's not the fault of anybody. It's the fault. I mean, it's just like the situation we find ourselves in. And so like even the first time I was meditating, like in the first like 10 seconds, I was just like craving for the phone like so bad, to just get stimulated. And then like when I used to go to bed, I used to just always leave like videos on. Like I couldn't go to sleep without just like listening to something, having some kind of stimulation. But I think like breaking that pattern is so important, and it helps you really kind of like get balanced, like kind of like find your center, and like I don't know, like when you're just being stimulated all the time, it's hard to think about things, and your mind gets cluttered and it just feels shitty. So I don't know, that's something I think about.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now could you just like tell us about like what kind of companies? It's going back a little bit to like the companies that you work with, that would be a good fit for you and for a mutual fit.
Yeah, so I mean, as of right now, like I said, like I still work with some smaller people, but who aren't even necessarily companies. But I'm trying to shift away and start working with, larger companies. And so, I mean, in terms of what company is a good fit, like for me, it's really just I don't know. It's hard to say. I guess just a company that's already working and where I'm able to make a big impact.
Right.
Because like I said, it takes more effort to sell 10 shoes than it does to do other things. Like that company where I was like they were doing about like $10,000 revenue on like $10,000 ad spend, like basically breaking even, and I was able to get them up to like a ROAS of 5, and so they were doing about $100,000 in revenue a month. That took more effort than selling 10 shoes, but like not, but it's not like proportional, like,
Right.
So I like being in companies where I can make a bigger impact and like, help people make a lot more money, than just like a lot of little things.
Right. So in other words, if you're a company that's already spending on ads a significant amount or somewhat significant amount on ads, if you need Brian here, you can come in there and audit it and even maybe get you even higher return on ad spend. So, definitely reach out to them. Where can people reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, just go to my website. Don't judge me though on the quality of my website, but you can go to my website. And I mean, the thing too is that like I don't want this to sound like a commercial, but like if we start talking and like I get in the account and I see like I actually like can't do anything for you, I'm gonna tell you that. I'm just like so like I can't even like express like how much not about it I am of just like I'm just like not interested in like trying to work with people where I know I'm not providing the value, and like I know it may sound like salesy or whatever, but like in terms of relationships, it's just like really never worth it,
Right. And this is the last thing, for people that are thinking like, wow, like, well, Brian seems like someone that has been able to do this really well, the freelancing, the managing different ad campaigns and getting into marketing. There's a lot of people that just are interested in marketing, but they just think that they can't do it or that's too much to handle. Maybe they're like, maybe they think they could do the marketing, but they just can't do the sales. Brian hasn't even really done any cold calling, so it's not even about that. I was kind of from the beginning, from the get go, he told me, I was like, dude, are you gonna like cold call people, or are you gonna like try to find clients that way? And he said, no, I'm just gonna create a system. So you don't even need a cold call. The way that he set it up, if you're trying to do the same thing, is literally just like one way, like through Upwork, where it's just you could talk about that a little bit before we wrap up. But yeah, there's no cold calling. There's none of that, and that's like one of the coolest things I think about what Brian has done, and it's working for him so far.
Yeah, like cold calling, I'm just not at all interested in doing that, and I have no need to do that. like I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but the acquisition of clients is not at all a hindrance to like my ability to work. The only hindrance is, you know, my workload essentially. So I mean, I guess this is kind of going maybe into it too much, but I like I said, I have a pretty good system for like for closing clients, and I feel like I'm pretty like upfront with people. And honestly, I turned down a lot of work like on Upwork. I turned down probably like 95% of the proposals or like invites people send me, I don't even read. And then, I mean, I'll read them, but like not even, you know, respond to them. And then, you know, like the ones that I do, like I'm really, really picky about who I work with because it's, I don't know, when you start getting work, it adds up pretty quick.
Right. But just to kind of like summarize, is there one thing? What is one thing that you do that's not the cold calling, where it just helps you get the clients?
Yeah, I'd just say the biggest thing is just like add as much value as possible, make it as much about the client experience as possible. I know people who the focus is on, and I've actually seen a lot of this, like a lot of this, like it would shock you. Um, a lot of people, organizations, whatever, the focus is just on like getting the clients for the highest amount possible and delivering, you know, doing the smallest amount of work possible for them. I think that's the totally wrong approach. Although like some of these people or organizations, whatever, that take this approach, and a lot of people do. I mean, obviously they're more successful than me, at least so far. But that's just not at all the approach that I'm interested in. For me, like my advice to people who are like want to get started and like really do things, just do a really good job. I think the story that like really like sums this up is that I saw an ad on YouTube because the marketing people, they're always like sending you ads, and it was like a guy talking about how he learned how to cold call, and he like did it like so much, and he finally got a client, and he signed the client on for like 2K a month, and then he did not have any idea what he was doing because all he knew was how to cold call, and then the client quit, and then he had to refund him. You know, that just do the opposite of what that guy did, and like, you'll probably be okay.
100%. I mean, like, yeah, what he's saying is like it's just value is like the essential key here. Like, obviously, you need some kind of degree of sales, but that's not even it. It's about if you can create value, people are going to come to you, and they're going to refer work to you, and you're going to find just endless amount of work where you have to turn on people. But yeah, Brian, thanks for being on this show today. It was a pleasure to have you, and hope that you guys find this valuable, and that, you know, you start freelancing, start your own businesses, or, you know, or maybe you start working with Brian or I in the future.